Hey guys, welcome back to Mikey Reacts. Now, obviously you know I'm a big fan of Lawrence over at Lost in the Pond, and you might have noticed that I'm doing a lot of his videos, but for a British guy who's looking to move to the US, he's very valuable because he's done it, he's doing it, and I want to learn as much as I can from him because I'm 100% sure I'm going to have the same experiences as he does at the moment I step on American soil when I start to live there. Because visiting, which I've done a million times, and living are two very different things. So, let's get to Lost in the Pond, Lawrence, and this video is the 5 greatest American accents. Now, I'm going to tell you this. My favourite American accent, and I know they can be differentiated by state and by region, but I love the Southern accent. I absolutely do. I think it's the most charming accent. I think it's the funniest when they want to be. And it's got a lot of misconceptions and a lot of hate because people view it as dumb. And that is absolutely ridiculous. I think it's actually, if you slow it down, believe it or not, it's the most similar to the British accent. And I've tried that. I've spoken to a lot of Southerners, and they actually very much agree with me. Let me know if you do. But let's get to it. Before we do that, don't forget, if you enjoy this video, if you enjoy this content, like and subscribe to the channel. You can subscribe right now. It's totally free. I know you're doing it as we speak. And it's something that'd be really appreciated. As we grow and we make more videos, I make more videos, of course. I say we, but it's just me, really. This channel, yeah, it's growing and it's absolutely amazing, and it's bigger than I ever thought it would be, to be honest. And it's still very small. But if you also want to subscribe to YouTube, but also want to see more exclusive videos that may be based around politics, history, and more in-depth conversations, or you want to have a private conversation with me via message, feel free to head over to Patreon. The link is down below in the description, just right here. It's $5 per month. That's it. That's all it is. $5 per month, and you can talk to me as much as you want. I'm available to talk to. Of course, I won't answer within 5 minutes all the time, but we can have private conversations. We can even set up a video call or a phone call conversation if you'd like to talk about some really interesting issues. And there's at least 20-25 videos on there already, with two to three videos posted per week about really important stuff and really interesting stuff. So head over there, guys. I can't wait to see you. Right, let's get to this.
I mean, for me, it's quite simple. I agreed to do the video. I did not agree to wear a t-shirt of George Washington holding a hot dog. It's tacky. Just go get my yellow mustard jumper. People love to see me in that. Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to accents.
Yeah.
Specifically, the different accents that I've heard since moving to the United States. So you know how British people get up in arms when Americans think that Britain only has 2 accents, Cockney and YouTube sensation Lawrence Brown? Well, the longer that I live in America, and by now that's been 15 years, I've come to discover, much to my own chagrin, that us Brits have been making the same faux pas about the United States.
True. I'm going to stop there. I hate to break it to you guys, but the Cockney accent is slowly leaving the UK. Cultures and demographics are changing in London, and the Cockney accent really isn't there so much anymore, apart from maybe within the older generation, but I haven't heard it for years, really. And my family actually originates from the East End of London, and my mum has it there, where obviously she's been out of London for a while now, but it's still there when she talks. She talks like a proper East Ender, and it's mixed with a bit of North London as well, because she's from North London. She lived in North London as well, so it's really mixed, but it's still there. So I kind of grew up with it, and I like hearing the Cockney accent. But I don't have one because I was only in East London for a little bit, and we moved out to Hertfordshire, just out of London, which is 10 miles out of London. Doesn't really exist that much, but my accent is a normal, average London accent. But anyway. And Lawrence here is from the north, like really far up north. Not quite Scotland, just before Scotland, but he's in the north of England. So his accent is much different from mine.
Don't do that now. For the longest time, I was under the misapprehension that the only accents that existed in this country were Harrison Ford, Robert De Niro, and Dolly Parton. But experience has taught me otherwise. Is that really the line? I've worked with people from all over the Midwest, and I've been to various parts of America, and in doing so, I've heard some wild inflections, delightful pronunciations, and also eaten a lot of food, but that's beside the point. And so today, I thought it would be a good idea to make a video that will get me cancelled by half of the country.
By the way, I just got what he was doing there. He was doing the Rocky thing. That was funny.
In which I list my 5 favourite regional accents in the United States. Can we say 5 of my favourite regional accents? So if your accent didn't make the list, it's either because there are just too many great accents in the US, or because it is genuinely rubbish. So as my cat digs his claws into my stomach, here are some of the best American accents that I've heard since moving to the United States.
Right, let's go. Upper Midwest. I don't know what that accent
I should have
sounds
prefaced this video by saying that I am not a speech coach. I am by no means an expert on delivering these accents, so do not expect me to replicate them here for your viewing pleasure. You want me to try my best. Having lived in Chicago for the last 7 years, I've heard things, right? Mostly taxis, honking, but I've also heard hints of what is known as an upper Midwestern accent. And you might just be thinking, ooh, Lawrence, why didn't you just include the Chicago accent in that case? And the reason is that every time I hear the Chicago accent, people sound angry, especially when they're not. So I thought I'd tell you all about the upper Midwestern accent that you hear in places like Minnesota and Wisconsin. During my first job in America, there was a woman in my training class who was from Wisconsin. And after hearing her speak a few times, I realized that she didn't sound like the rest of these people from Indiana. And mostly that came from the way she pronounced her O's, right? It was something like, ooh, just not as high-pitched as that.
almost like a hybrid between an American accent, the average, and a Canadian accent. And it kind of makes sense because it's right there on the border, maybe.
And I can't really do it because
I didn't insult anyone.
I try to do it, I end up sounding Irish, which is true of most accents that I try. It was very endearing. I think she would say the word to go. To go. Again, sounds Irish.
That sounds Irish.
Essentially, they do it in one syllable, sort of a monothong. When we non-Northern Midwesterners try to say the sound O, it's sort of O, whereas they do it, it's like ooh, like that. But one thing that I heard the other day is that Northern Midwesterners do this thing where they sort of close up their mouth, you know, no, that's, well, what is that? I don't know what accent that is. But they close up their mouth and that
Sounds
sort of
Irish
helps
again.
to truncate some of those vowel sounds a little bit. As to why they sound Irish, I don't know, because I'd heard that much of the way that people speak in the Northern Midwest is influenced by Scandinavians. Maybe some Irish people came in and they all had a big party, and at the end of it, that was the result. But my absolute favourite thing about Northern Midwestern English is the way they pronounce the word bag. Right? It's not bag, it's more like beg. Beg, as in to beg for food. And to me, and this might just be a weird quirk of who I am, I find that very attractive. I'm happily married, but if I was single and I went on one of those dating sites and a woman in her profile said, by the way, I'm really into English guys and I pronounce it beg, then we would definitely be going.
You know what's funny is that I'm sure, because I've seen his wife in some of his videos, I'm sure she's off screen somewhere there. If that was me, I mean, with, you know, I'd be done for, but anyway.
If she pronounced
in a loving way,
beg, as some of them do, then we're getting married and I would subject myself to a lifetime of talking about bags. So maybe this wouldn't be such a great idea.
Although Tasha does know that I like the southern accent, so.
Back in 2004, I got the chance to visit Boston for the first and so far only time. And while I was there, I was hanging out with friends and also friends of friends, and they just all happened to be mostly Harvard students because in those days I was extremely elitist. But during the day, while they were busy learning Latin or something like that, I'd go off into the town or city centre and I frequented an ice cream shop. And I was speaking to sort of the servers there. I noticed their accent was so strong, right? They'd lived in the city clearly their entire life to that point, where they'd say something like, hey, buddy, want some nuclear power with that? That was JFK pronouncing nuclear power 60 years ago. Right. But you still heard a Bostonian accent. But at the same time, I don't want to just draw on the stereotypical words that people use when they do a Boston accent, like park or car or yard. So instead, I've got far, dark, and hard. It's kind of hard to run far in the car. That I got the wrong word, but you get the general picture. The beauty of that kind of old world Bostonian English is that it doesn't adhere to the same rhotic pattern that a lot of American English does, where you pronounce that final R.
Yeah.
So it almost has this feeling of...
That's interesting, that maybe it's more similar to the British accent, because if you guys say far, you'll say far. We don't pronounce the R, it's far. Like the Bostonians. That's interesting.
a marriage between British and American English.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
picked
yeah.
Bostonian for this just because I have first-hand experience of it. But just from watching television, it's evident that there's some absolutely delightful and delicious East Coast accents all over the shop. I was watching this one show recently, I think it was one of those Bake-Off challenge type shows, and one of the contestants was from Rhode Island, and he pronounced the word marinara like marinara. It was the most glorious thing I've ever heard.
I miss you so much. And me.
Oh.
A few years ago, I got to visit the state of Pennsylvania for the first time, and before doing so, I don't think I was fully aware what a linguistically rich state it is. On the far west part of the state is the city of Pittsburgh, and that was the first place in Pennsylvania that I arrived at since we were coming from Chicago. We were there just for the 4th of July, so we didn't have a lot of time in the city, but while we were there, I did try to listen out for a local accent. And here's what I figured out. In Pittsburgh, the alphabet only has 25 letters, and L isn't one of them. Because it's almost like when they say words that has an L in the middle of it, it ends up somewhere back here. For instance, take the name of another well-known Pennsylvania city, Philadelphia, which has 2 instances of L. I imagine that somebody from Pittsburgh probably pronounces it Philadelphia. That, I don't know what that was. That sounded like my dog. So sorry to the people of Pittsburgh. Let me know in the comments below if you're from Pittsburgh and how you pronounce your L's or don't pronounce your L's. I just noticed there was an absence of L's. And famously, Pittsburghian people, Pittsburghers, people from Pittsburgh pronounce the vowel sound in town like tan, like downtown, downtown. Downtown. It's almost Cockney. It's definitely different. It's very unique, I think, to Pittsburgh.
That's interesting.
I even tried to get one of the waitresses who served us at a restaurant to say it without asking, because I imagine that they get that a lot from tourists. And so I just sort of tried to tease it out of her by saying, where exactly are the 4th of July fireworks taking place tonight? And frustratingly, although rightly, her answer was, by the rivers. And so I never got to hear her say, downtown. Downtown. Which one is it? I need to watch a YouTube video on this. A few days after leaving Pittsburgh, we ended up in the previously mentioned Philadelphia. And to my ears, it was pretty wild how one state could have 2 completely different variations on the English language.
Yeah, but if you think about how big a state is compared to the UK, right? So I think the UK fits inside Texas. Or is the same. No, maybe not. But there isn't that much different in size. So if you consider that, and we have so many accents here, it's understandable that in one state like Philadelphia, you might have more than one accent.
Because the first thing that I'd say upon hearing a Philly accent, of which locals say there are many Philly accents, it sort of sounded to my British ears like a New York accent, but I think there was some subtle differences in there. You know, on this channel, I've often talked about how when I'm in a restaurant in most places in the United States and I order a water, the server's eyes usually meet mine with a look of utter confusion before they realise that what I'm ordering is what they pronounce as water. Philadelphia does it a little bit differently to that. They pronounce it something like wooder. Wooder the woodpecker. No, it's Woody. I mean, there's almost a joke in it that a Philadelphian, a British person, and other American people walk into a bar and order water. And in that same joke, you might have a person from each party who asks, in my case, from Britain, have you eaten yet? Or as some people might say in Indiana, where I used to live, have you ate? In Philadelphia, it's more like, gee. It almost sounds like they're suppressing a hiccup. And also among Philadelphians, correct me if I'm wrong, the vowel sound in the word on is more like on. So describe YouTube sensation Lawrence Brown. Oh, that guy, he walks on water. Walks on water. I don't actually. This is just the perception that people have developed, mostly because of propaganda and lies and a healthy grain of truth. And finally, West Virginia. And if you're new to this channel, you probably...
I know this is going to be like the one southern accent he's going to do in this video. I know that. But I kind of wish you had like a East Texas, maybe even Do you know what? I actually like the Louisiana accent. I know it's really, really unique, but I find it really interesting to listen to.
What does a city dweller know about life in the mountains? Well, I am a bona fide mountain man, I'll have you know. I mean, this is still my house in Illinois, but what I said is true. Because in addition to all of the world-renowned hiking that I am renowned for throughout the world, I'm married to an American who has familial ties to West Virginia. And that means that we spent countless Labor Day weekends up in the mountains with said family members. And it's great because one tradition that we have is to play bluegrass music. And it was so contagious that at one
I mean, that's a good question. I know Virginia is considered southern. Is West Virginia above the Mason-Dixon line? I think it is. But question, is it considered southern? Like, let me know.
Even I got up and played guitar and even sang. The footage has since been confiscated by the CIA, so you won't get to see that. But when we're not singing and when I'm not stuffing my face full of chicken dippers, we are in conversation. I say we, I can't get a word in edgeways. But for the purposes of my channel, that's good because it means that I just get to listen to them speak. And the first thing I noticed, they have this very soft, gentle way of talking, which is not what I'd expect of people living in the mountains. You know, you might have to fend off bears. I suppose that's a lovely way of putting them to sleep. But when you look at a map, I imagine that West Virginia isn't too far away from the point at which Northern American English starts becoming Southern American English. And I think because of that, to my ears, that Southern West Virginia accent isn't quite as pronounced as something in, say, Alabama. But they do still say things like, fine. At least my wife's cousin Chad did when I asked him how his family life's going. Well, you don't want to find yourself out there in the woods alone at night, Lawrence, because you could run into some of them black bears over yonder.
That's pretty good, I think.
Right, they like to say they like the phrase "over yonder," which is good because it helps to keep Shakespeare alive in the 21st century. Oh, and I'm pretty certain that I heard this for the first time in West Virginia, although subsequently heard it in other states like Indiana and Ohio, pronouncing Washington as Warshington, and I've just now realised that's why you made me wear the t-shirt. Yeah, he's not George Washington carrying a hot dog. He's George Washington carrying a hot dog. That was Forrest Gump. Sorry, I'm really bad at this. And so those right there were 5 of my favourite American accents, and you probably...
I want to stop it there because he just mentioned Forrest Gump. There was a really interesting thing. Did you know why Forrest Gump spoke the way he did? So Forrest Gump... Sorry, my microphone is all the way over there. Forrest Gump spoke the way he did because... So, you know, the kid who played young Forrest Gump, he spoke that way. Tom Hanks couldn't get him to do the accent that was originally scripted for Forrest Gump. So what happened is that Tom Hanks supposedly mimicked the accent of the actor, the boy actor, and that's what they stuck with. So that's amazing. Actually, not apparently, it's what he said happened. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, look, you're gonna get vastly different accents from all parts of the United States. The same way you do from the UK. If you look at the UK as a whole instead of just England, the difference between someone who lives in London and someone who lives in Belfast is vast. Sometimes we can't even understand each other, and that's very, very true of the thick Scottish accent. Especially with people who are not from the UK, they find it very, very difficult. We even find it difficult, and we live here. The same thing that goes like the Scouse accent, that's from Liverpool, very, very different to anything like London. I know I'm using London here as my base. I think it's just because where I'm from, but yeah, everything is vastly different. So it would make sense that it was the same in the US, even state by state. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope I've got my favorite accent will be a bit more of a southern accent, let's say Alabama, Georgia, sort of South Carolina kind of accent. I absolutely love those accents. I think they're really almost melodic, and I really like that about them. So let me know if you've got a favorite accent. Let me know where you're from, and if that's got anything to do with it. Because obviously for us, we can sort of stand more on neutral ground because we're not Americans ourselves. Well, not by birth anyway, or not by the way we speak. So we can have sort of an unbiased opinion. But let me know where you guys are from, and if you have any favorite accents, and if by chance you're from a place where the accent isn't your favorite at all. Say for example you live in Texas and you really love the New York accent, let me know. But I don't see that happening, but let me know anyway. It'd be really interesting to find out. So guys, I hope you have a great day. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's totally free, and head over to Patreon. It's just $5 per month. The link is down below in the description. You're going to find lots of videos there. In fact, I'll be posting one this evening, so watch out for that one. Guys, have a great evening, and I'll see you on the next one.